Hey guys, I recently turned 34 and I can't believe I'm saying that, but I decided it's about time that I get started talking about my season of singleness. And I know there's some people watching this video and you're probably in your 30s as well and you're wondering like, is it ever going to happen for me? Well, I recently just got married at the age of 33 and I believe like there is so much hope for us as we continue to wait and continue to trust in the Lord. Today in this video, I just want to talk about like 3 important lessons that the Lord has taught me in my season of singleness that really shifted my perspective and also encouraged me to keep pressing in, to keep trusting in God and his purposes and plans for the life that he has for me. Now, I want to just clarify this. Singleness is not a curse. It's not a disease that we need to avoid or get rid of. I do believe that maybe some people are called towards singleness. However, that wasn't necessarily the desire that God placed in my heart. So I knew that this desire is good. This is from God. So I don't have to be afraid that like this is going to be like the permanent condition of my life. The first lesson is waiting is not wasted time. Now, we don't know how long our waiting season is going to be. Like if I knew that I was going to get married at 33, great. I would have had the determination. Like I would have known that, okay, I can wait for this long and the promise is going to be fulfilled. But we don't know God's timeline, and he does that on purpose. Why? Because if we knew, then we wouldn't need faith. We wouldn't need to trust in him. The fact that we don't know makes it uncomfortable for us and helps us to grow in our dependence and in our trust of the Lord. You see, faith only grows in harsh environments. And sometimes the waiting season gets so uncomfortable and feels so strange or so harsh that we desperately want to get out of it. And rather than taking things into our own hands and manipulating the situation to get what we want, we can seek the Lord and grow in our dependence and grow in our trust of him. So when I entered into my 30s, man, I was desperately seeking the Lord. I was fasting and praying and in the word, specifically that the Lord would bring me a spouse, but that resulted in the Lord developing a stronger foundation in my own life and in my relationship with him. One of the stories that really inspires me in scripture is Joseph, because God gave him a dream at 17 and it actually came into fulfillment in his life at the age of 30. So he had an extended season of waiting. And in Psalm 105, it says, verse 19, until the time came to fulfill his dreams, the Lord tested Joseph's character. Then Pharaoh sent for him and set him free. The ruler of the nation opened the prison doors, and Joseph was put in charge of all the king's household, and he became ruler of all the king's possessions. What this passage shows us is that the process is just as important as getting to the promise. It says here, the Lord tested Joseph's character, that it was in that season of waiting, in the season of trial, in the season of hardship, Joseph's faith, his character was refined, his faith was built, and his dependence grew on the Lord. That these things could have only been cultivated in the process. So I want to encourage you, as you're in this waiting season, like this is the process, and God has a purpose for you in this process. It's to refine your character. It's to make you more like Christ. It's to grow you in your dependence and in your trust in the Lord. So don't rush the process. Don't try to like escape it and get out of it. Know that there is something that God has for you, because if we want to rush out of it and if we prematurely get to that promise, get to that fulfillment of desire without going through the process, then it can actually end up destroying us. It can actually end up crushing us if we don't go through the necessary steps and the necessary journey that God has for us. So enjoy the journey because it's preparing us to receive the promise. And don't get so caught up in arriving at the destination that we miss out on what God is trying to teach us through the season of waiting. The second thing the Lord taught me is to enjoy the other trees. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, it takes me back to the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. You see, God created all of these incredible trees, all of the trees from which they could eat fruit from. But there was one tree that they were told, you cannot eat fruit from this tree. It is a tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But anytime we're told that we can't have that one thing, I mean, our desires are like, that's all I want. So Adam and Eve were so tempted, were so mesmerized by this tree that they forgot to enjoy all the other blessings, all the other trees in the garden. And I think when we're in a season of waiting and singleness, that we feel like God is withholding some blessing from us. We feel like God is telling us we can't have the one thing that we desire so badly. And it becomes the obsession of our life that we forget to enjoy all the other amazing, beautiful blessings that God has placed in our lives. So I want you to just look around. What are the blessings? What are the things that you are missing out on because you constantly are focusing on the one thing that you don't have? And the enemy wants you to focus on this. The enemy wants you to believe like God is withholding something good from you, but that is not true. I think back to when I was single, I did try to live life to the fullest, but I wish I actually kind of did even more. I traveled the world. I went to 10 different countries. I started learning different things like investing in stocks and even like started this YouTube channel. I really spent time with godly friendships and tried to make sure the right people were around me to encourage me in this journey. I started working out, joined Orange Theory, got healthy and fit. I wanted to maximize my time rather than passively waiting for God's promise to come. Like I wanted to be living my fullest life. So whenever God brought that person into my life, like they could know, man, she was living rather than just waiting. You're never going to get this time back. So don't just passively let life slip you by. Don't just get caught up in this thinking or this obsession that like God is withholding something from you and my life can't start until I have that one thing. But instead, man, enjoy the other trees. Take inventory of all the blessings that God has given you in your life and start enjoying them and living to the fullest. The third thing that the Lord has taught me is that your story is unique. It's so easy to compare ourselves nowadays because of social media to someone else's life, someone else's journey and story. And even for me, thinking about my life, I have friends that I've graduated with who are also the same age and they have 3 kids. And I could choose to compare my life with them and be like, man, I could be farther along down the road like they are. But I don't know why God made me wait, and it's okay. And you might be watching this video and thinking, wow, at least you got married at 33. Like I'm in my late 30s or I'm in my 40s and I still don't see fulfillment of that desire. And I just want to encourage you that your story is unique, that one day your testimony, your story, your waiting is not wasted time, that it will be used as an encouragement for someone else's life. And I love the story of Ruth because she experienced so much tragedy and it seemed like her story was going to end without any hope. But God dramatically shows up and he turns it all around. In Ruth, my husband gave me this card for my birthday and he wrote a scripture verse in it. And I love it. It says, Ruth says, wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people and your God will be my God. Ruth was so resilient to trust in the Lord in spite of her tragedy, in spite of her waiting, that the Lord blessed her for that. And God is writing a unique story for you. And you're the only one, just like our fingerprints are unique, you're the only one that will have your story. So let God be the author. Don't try to take control. Don't try to take the pen out of his hand and write the story for yourself. But let him be the author of your story in your life and let him write something beautiful. Because right now, you're probably in a chapter that doesn't seem the best. It just seems pointless or it makes no sense. But know that the end of a chapter is not the end of the book. and God is not done writing the book of your life. So your story is unique. I hope these things encouraged you as you're waiting on the Lord. And if there's anything else you'd like to hear about my story or any other questions that you want to hear or you need some perspective on, let me know, because I would love to talk about that in my next video.